On this episode of Web at Night, we are back and we're talking about one of the web's most popular content management systems, and that is WordPress. We're going to be talking all about WordPress, what it is, how to use it, how to take more power of it, and if you're new to WordPress, how to get started. All that coming up on this week's episode of Web at Night. Web at Night is brought to you by Zygen Hosting, the hosting gateway. Zygen offers VPS hosting, web hosting, IRC-V hosting, Shell, BNC, and more. For more information, visit ZygenHosting.com and use the offer code WebAtNight at checkout to save 20% off your order. And by OWC, Other World Computing, your one-stop shop for all things iOS and Mac. From a wide variety of accessories for your iOS devices to RAM and hard drive upgrades to your Mac, OWC has it all. Visit MacSales.com to learn more. Hey everybody, welcome back to Web at Night. I know it's been a while. It's been a while since we've done a show, but we are back, ready to go. We're talking all about WordPress this week, all about all the fun stuff you can do with WordPress. And of course, I couldn't do this show alone. I have with me my friend Mr. Ryan Becker. Ryan, how you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It's good to be back doing the show, and I think we'll just keep doing the same thing we've always done.
Yeah, we have, and I appreciate everyone who's watched the show, who participates live. I see that a lot of people really enjoy the show. As I get a call, I'm going to ignore that, but I am happy to be here back doing Web at Night. We're talking all about WordPress this week, and it's going to be a great show. So I guess the first thing we'll start off with is, I guess, just a little bit about WordPress. What is WordPress? So if you don't know, Ryan, this is kind of something he does, I guess, for a living, right? You do, web hosting and all this technical stuff, kind of as a part-time job or a full-time job. Can you, Ryan, before I give the layman's term definition of WordPress of what I know, can you explain, kind of, I guess, from a technical side, what WordPress is and what is a content management system?
Okay, so like you said, WordPress is indeed a content management system, and basically what it does is basically every website runs on code, and then back when websites were first getting started, to run your own website, you had to know the code, or you had to hire somebody that could write it for you. But with WordPress, you've got WordPress takes a lot of the gives it a lot of simplicity, rather. You install it on your server, and you can go in and you can create posts and pages really easily, and you don't have to know any of the code. All you're presented with is a nice interface that shows you, okay, this is, go here to do this, go here to do this, and you're not writing any of the code yourself. You put in what you want the system to display, and it displays it.
Right, so WordPress really is used by many people as, an easy-to-use content management system. It's very well-known, very popular. And if you don't know, like Ryan said, a content management system, it helps you manage your content more easily. So, for example, let's say you have someone who's writing their own custom website. There's someone who's doing all the manual work. And a content management system certainly helps with making the transition between, writing something and getting it up online or making changes much easier. But it's also it's important to understand that WordPress is not the only content management system on the web, and we're going to be talking about that more. Ryan, do you know what are some other popular content management systems? I know Drupal is one.
Yeah, you've got WordPress, you've got Drupal, there's a lot of forum software. There's a website called Cushy CMS, that's Cushy CMS, and what it does is if you've got a pre-built website, or you've got somebody that's built a website for you, you can add tags to the code. It's just it's just a simple tag you add at the beginning and end of a section, and you give Cushy CMS access to your website, and it will actually let you graphically modify what's on your website.
Wow.
It's not necessarily a full content management system because it does require the code to be written in advance,
right.
But it does allow you to make easy changes on the fly, and a lot of hosting companies will also offer you the ability to build your own website.
Right.
GoDaddy's got their own site builder,
yes.
One-in-One, whatever. and you can also use them that way. But technically, those aren't content management systems; they're
Right.
just website designers.
Right. And I know we've certainly talked about website designers, website add-ons. If you've missed any of our episodes, go to robustech.com/WAN, and that'll give you the iTunes link for the audio feed and the video feed. And we've talked about, the intro to a website before, why you want to use a website. We've also talked about website add-ons. We've talked a little bit about site builders. So if you've missed any of that, go ahead and certainly check it out. But one of the, I guess, getting into WordPress here, it's one of the most popular reasons people choose WordPress that I know of, at least from someone who's looked at doing websites, is going to be because it's open source. And I know that this makes a big difference because you're able to develop for it more. Ryan, I guess you can kind of talk a little bit more about this. Why is open source important, especially for WordPress and a content management system?
Okay, so there's this whole initiative, if you're not familiar with it, called FOSS, F-O-S-S, which is free open source software. And FOSS software is good software to use because, like you said, all of the code is open, so it makes it very easy to not to document, but rather to develop for these websites. And all of the code is documented, and everybody's free to make changes in it. So it's not only free as in free beer, it's also free as in free, I don't know what the other term is, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And that's really important too, so it allows people to kind of develop for it and do different things for it, and it's very popular. And as far as what I know, WordPress is one of the oldest content management systems around. I know that I heard certainly about this. It was very popular back when I started kind of looking for websites, and that was, back in 2007, 2008. Is WordPress, I think it's one of the oldest ones around, isn't it?
Not sure on that one.
All right.
I don't know its age compared to any other management systems.
All right, I'm pretty sure it's at least one of the oldest, or at least, no doubt one of the most popular. So, of course, we've gone over, kind of what WordPress is. It's a very easy to content management system. So now let's talk about the advantages of using WordPress. Instead of using your site builder that comes free with your website or some other thing, some of the advantages of using WordPress, and I know me and Ryan will talk about this. The first thing I'll be a testament to, as someone who didn't know websites and still doesn't know a whole lot about website management and stuff, is going to be that it's extremely easy. Even the install process, and most of the time, we'll get to this a little later, it's literally like a 1 or 2 click install. And even I just know using WordPress, the administration panel, everything's really easy to use on it. I know, Ryan, you've used WordPress. What do you think? Compared to other content management systems like Drupal, is WordPress easier to use?
In certain respects, it is, and a lot of people associate WordPress with a blogging platform because that's what it was originally designed for. And you've also got WordPress, and you've got WordPress multi-user. You've got BuddyPress, which allow people to create multi-user blog sites. And Drupal has similar functionality, but WordPress, like I said, it was designed as a blogging site, but it can very easily be used to make full websites, and a lot of people will prefer it to just writing their own website or having it as a blog site. Is that WordPress does a lot of back-end optimization, and there's a lot of add-ons that you can install for WordPress that give it better SEO results. It gives it better page load times, easier customizability. I've used Drupal in the past, and I've even used some of the more recent versions of it because they recently, with version 7, I believe, they did a complete overhaul of the interface, and Drupal has a lot more options that a beginner website creator may not necessarily need.
Right, and I think that's you made a great point. One of the misconceptions that a lot of people have about WordPress that I know it was very prevalent back in the day, I don't know if it is now, but people automatically assume WordPress is a blogging platform just because, like Ryan said, that is what it was originally intended to do. But now WordPress, with all the themes and all the customization options, it's really taken on a life of its own, and it certainly cannot be compared to a blogging platform. Now, even though I think that at its core, the bread and butter of WordPress is blogging, but you can certainly use it. I've seen restaurants who've used WordPress blogs. When I did my school's website a couple of years ago, we developed the whole thing on WordPress, and there's the advantage of coming back to the, kind of full circle, is that it's very easy to use. The back-end interface is really simple here. I'm going to pull up, I have on my Mac, this is my website, this is robustech.com, and we'll get into other people who use WordPress later and how it looks, but just taking a look at the flat-out interface, it's very simple. Even to someone who might be intermediate, it shows me comments, it shows me posts, it gives me a nice dashboard of everything I have to look at. It's very, very simple just to kind of get your feet wet and just kind of start to embrace a new platform and kind of start to get going and just without even any learning. There's not really a huge learning curve to this, but once you kind of get behind WordPress and once you know what to do, it can become very powerful. So yes, the bread and butter of it is blogging. And of course, we should mention WordPress.com, which is the same people who do WordPress. And I guess Ryan might know a little bit better about this. WordPress.com and WordPress.org are two separate entities of the same company. WordPress.com is the web-based, the free blogging platform that you can sign up on for a .wordpress.com domain name, like webAtNight.wordpress.com, and you can have a blog. But WordPress.org is certainly the more open source, the actual software that you install. Ryan, so kind of going, I guess, to the advantages and disadvantages, what would you say to people who, if you wanted to start using WordPress, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here in the doc, but would you recommend them installing it themselves or starting to go with .wordpress.com to begin?
It really depends. It depends on a couple things. It depends on your skill level. If you have basic server skills, or you have a web host that has a management system, then I'd go and I install it yourself. And the benefit you have of that too is that you're using your own domain. You're not using something.wordpress.com, and this is also the difference between .com and .org. .com, like you said, is the hosted version. That's so anything that you sign up for, they run the software. That's called a hosted version of software, and you set up everything there. WordPress.org is where you download the WordPress software to run on your own server. And WordPress.com also has the codex, which is documentation of all the WordPress functions. It's got the user form. It's got everything there.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, WordPress.com is certainly more blogging oriented, but WordPress.org is really that open source platform. We'll kind of get to how to kind of get started with that a little bit. But talking more about WordPress, so it's easy to use. The other thing that is important to mention is the WYSIWYG editor. And WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. So WordPress, going back to being a blogging platform and entering content, one of the things that really excels on is giving you a very simple interface. So here's an example here. This is the WordPress interface for adding a new blog post. So I have in big bold letters here, add a new post, enter a title here. I have what looks like, to many people who are brand new to this, I would say similar to kind of a Microsoft Office style, just in the fact that you could change the font, you can do the underline, you can do the change of colors. It's very, very simple to get started and extremely easy to start, your own blog and start to get going here. That WYSIWYG editor really is important, not only to someone who's blogging, but also to adding content. We talked about how WordPress can be used by different companies for different things, and we'll show some big name companies who are using them. When I redid my school's website back about a year or so ago now, I used WordPress not only because it was really customizable and it was open source and you could do a lot of things and I used it, but it's extremely easy to add content to it, especially if you kind of set up a good theme and you know what you're doing. If you have a business and you want to have maybe the owner who's very busy and doesn't have a lot of time to do something, maybe you have an intern or assistant who's not really tech savvy, but someone who knows how to use Microsoft Word especially, it's really, really simple to get them to use WordPress and to log in, and it's almost kind of dummy proof in a way. You can really set it up to really make it so they can't really screw anything up. What do you think, Ryan? Have you heard of people, businesses using this, and what do you think? Is it really kind of dummy proof and easy to use?
It really is, and like you said, a lot of businesses do use it, and there's a lot of plugins and stuff that you can add to it that make it a lot easier to use for newbies too. A lot of, like, one of our sponsors, Zygen Hosting, their website is a completely WordPress-based website, but if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know. And there's, like I said, there's the plugins that help out. And you mentioned the WYSIWYG editor. And there's a plugin for WordPress called Ultimate Tiny MCE. And basically, it gives you extra options on your editor. It gives you a lot more formatting options, checking options, and you can really get down and look at what you're seeing. And you've also got plugins such as WP Touch, which will automatically convert your site into a mobile version, so you won't have to rewrite anything for that. It'll take all of the content that you have and it compiles it into a mobile site. And you've got, which I'll get into this later, but you've also got Jetpack, which is a lot of WordPress.com has a lot of features that the .org hosted version does not have on its own, but Jetpack brings that in, and I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right, and that's really important too, is just the fact that it's super easy and there's all these different plugins, and that's one of the things that's so important about WordPress is we're kind of talking about here a good foundation. That's something really to understand. It's easy to use, and the solid foundation. And this we'll get into a little in just literally a few minutes. The good foundation that WordPress has really makes it exceed and excel a lot of other options because of the open source community. So kind of tying things back, making it open source not only means it's free, but allows people to develop for it and really get in there. There's people who use WordPress who know the ins and outs, they know what they're doing. And like Ryan said, the plugin community and the theme community allows you to really transform that WordPress theme or that WordPress website into anything. And having a really nice open source foundation, having a really good solid foundation makes the ability to customize exceedingly simple. And I'm just going to show off here some websites that are using WordPress. So you might not know this is on the WordPress website, but they kind of show. I listed some in the doc. We have CNN, New York Times, 9 to 5 Mac. These websites that are very well known actually have a foundation of WordPress. And like Ryan said, Zygen Hosting here, if you go to the website here, it's so interesting. This is not a blog. This is certainly not a blog. It doesn't even look anywhere remotely to seem like it would be WordPress. If I was to glance at this, I wouldn't even notice it. I wouldn't think twice about this being a WordPress blog. But now that, Ryan said something, it's pretty interesting to see that this is actually, it's based off of WordPress, which just kind of speaks to the testament of how customizable and how really nitty gritty you can get into this. So we talked a little bit about a really easy to back end. Another thing that's nice about WordPress is a login. You could give multiple people different access to the different levels. So you can, when I did the school, I gave, the receptionist had the ability to add announcements, but she didn't really have the ability to add posts. Someone had the ability to edit pages. You really have a lot of control that you might not get, or you certainly probably wouldn't get in something like Website Tonight from GoDaddy, for example.
Sure, and I use Website Tonight for one of my web design clients, and it's a very nice system, but you've got no control. You can't control who can do what, because when I log into the system, I use the account owner's login. But I mean, I like the system, but there's no security control, like you said. And WordPress really does excel in that area because you've got very fine-grained control. You can allow or disallow users to register on your website, but also you can set permissions for those users. So you've got administrators, moderators, content creators, a bunch of stuff, and it's really, really easy to edit.
Right, and I think that really comes back down to, we'll talk a little bit about security in a little bit, but really making it easy to use is really the core of WordPress. So, if you're a big business, you could set up this big website for someone, a big client, and then just be able to give them different user accounts and say, here's what you're doing, here's how to do it. And because WordPress is so widely available and support is out there, it's very, very feasible for a company to do this. And another reason why it's so important for a company, or why it's so accessible and why it's such a good reason for companies to do this, is that with just the changing of one theme, you could dramatically transform your website. And I will point out that if for someone who's using a .wordpress.com domain, which is easy to get started, you won't have as much control as we're talking about here on the open source system. But talking about the WordPress.org, the actual content management system you install, there is such a wide a variety of different themes you can get for your website. It is incredible. Elegant themes, woo themes. That's just to name a couple of the popular ones. WordPress has a ton of free themes, premium themes. A theme on WordPress really transforms that website into anything you want. Restaurants, businesses, schools. And a theme can really change that website. Another thing that a theme really does is, with WordPress, a lot of the good themes that are actually made by good developers, they translate really well into the editor. So when you log into the website, you can see that, okay, I have all my theme options. It's broken down really easily. It's going to be so much more easy to use WordPress and use a WordPress theme than having someone custom code a website that's going to be only edited by them. Making an easy theme, like with a photo slideshow, making things easy to use is very, very important. And Ryan, I know you can kind of talk about this a little bit. What do you think about the plugins, the themes, all these things that are available for WordPress that can really transform, like Zygen Hosting? This, like I said, you wouldn't even know that this is a blogging platform, but I'm sure you guys have some plugins and themes running in the background that really makes this, really make it stand out.
Yeah, we sure do. And the admin section, I'm just going to log into the admin section of that site real quick, and I can show you what we have, or I can tell you what we have rather. But on our site, we've got SEO plugins, we've got site optimization plugins, we've got I don't remember how it does its theme. Okay, so yeah, we actually had our own theme custom made.
Right.
which is why we have, which is why the site looks like it does, because we have that theme made for us. But we've got a bunch of plugins in there that, like I mentioned before, that WordPress does a lot of optimizations. And WordPress also does a lot of improvements for SEO that you may not have realized that could be done. Like one of the plugins is WP Super Cache, and what that does, it'll take, instead of the way WordPress works is every time you request a site, it has to take content out of a database and build it together, and then the server has to process it and then output the file for your browser to display. But with Super Cache, it stores static files, so they load a lot faster. And so, like I said, we've got SEO plugins, we've got Google XML sitemaps, and sitemaps are a great way for the Google bot to index your site, because they tell the Google bot what's where and what it means. So just a lot of good things that can be used.
Right, and that's another thing too. You make a good point that you can get WordPress themes custom themed or custom coded rather. So if you have, let's say you have a very big enterprise company that you need to have special code in there, you need to have like a special photo slideshow or something. Like Ryan said, these plugins can really be made, and they're very powerful, and they can be used to do a lot of these things that you'd have to have custom coded beforehand. But now WordPress, with the open platform, the stable foundation, it really opens the door for people to be able to custom code. And I know that many people who design websites also custom code WordPress sites, and that's how they make a living. And you can certainly do different things with that. And I was just showing off here when Ryan was talking here. Here's the plugins page from WordPress that allows you to see. Here's WP Super Cache plugins. I don't know, Ryan, for someone who's a big novice to websites, for someone who doesn't know what a plugin is, what do you think the best way is to describe what a plugin is and how it can really impact a WordPress website?
Okay, so a plugin is basically a bit of code that you install onto your site. It's very easy. WordPress has an interface in the admin section that allows you to search for plugins and install them. But it adds extra functionality, like I mentioned WP Touch, which automatically converts into a mobile site. You've got Super Cache, which is the page preloading. You can have, if you're using something, the more advanced users might be using something like Amazon S3 for their CDN network, and there's plugins that will automatically interface with that. And basically, it's code that already exists that's free to install, and you don't have to go through and take the time to either do the functions on your site manually or write the code to do it. Absolutely. And one of the very, very popular plugins for WordPress is called Akismet. And
yes,
that plugin will automatically scan any comment that comes into your site, and if it detects that it's spam, it'll throw it into a spam queue, and it won't even give you the option. It won't even show up in your approval list. You won't get notified about the comment. It just throws it into the spam list.
Yes, this is Akismet right there. This, if you are a WordPress user or even a blogger in general, one of the things is, though WordPress is very popular, the downside to this is that it can be targeted. We'll get into security a little later, but it's very easy to get comment spam, and that's something that happens a lot. But Akismet, Akismet, I can't ever say how to say it. Akismet. I believe it's Akismet, yeah. Akismet. It's a free plugin that you install. It's super simple to set up. And once you have it installed, you no longer have to see that spam, the very generic spam that people hate seeing. You'll get email from your WordPress blog saying, cool guy 95 said posted a comment on your blog, and it's always just spam to drugs or something, or online prescriptions. It's horrible, and plugins really allow you to do that. Oh, we see Ryan here. This is the your WordPress plugin. Look at that admin page. Wow. Okay, so this is actually one plugin. It's called WordPress Jetpack. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of features on the WordPress.com site that sites that you install by yourself don't have, because when you install a site by yourself, it is very bare bones. But WordPress.com adds a lot of features to that. So you've got this pages and pages of options that you can install, or activate rather, that will bring some of the WordPress.com functionality to your own website. So you've got this toolbar that can come across this top of the website. So if you're logged in, you've got this toolbar option up here, so you can see your views. This is the empty the cache for WP Super Cache. You can create a post and stuff right here. You can moderate comments. You can go back to the dashboard. You can do a bunch of stuff there. And like I said, you've got WordPress.com stats. This used to be available as an independent plugin, but they've recently
integrated it into Jetpack, so the independent plugin no longer exists. Hopefully this will load. And this is like Google Analytics for your WordPress website. So a lot of website users will use Google Analytics, and this will give you, this tells you total page views, how many views you've had in a day, how many you've had today, followers, clicks recorded, where people came from, where they went to, and there's a lot of options.
That is.
I've also mentioned.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, I'm saying that is a really awesome plugin.
Yeah, and I mentioned Ultimate TinyMC as well. There's a bunch of actual extra options that you can add to your edit interface, like you see right here. And you can pick where all these are displayed, and it'll add them all. You can, just hit the check, and it adds them where you want them. And you can add these custom plugins here, and yeah, it's really, really something great to use.
Yeah, that is really, really awesome. I'll show you here. This is, I had it up on the screen earlier. This is the website. Let's see. This is the plugins on my site here. If I can find, there it is. This is the right shot here. This is the plugins. As you can see, I have Akismet, all-in-one SEO pack, audio player, a lot of things like this contact form. There's a lot of parts on my website that I could not really have if it was not for plugins. Google AdSense, drag and drop files, analytics. I have a lot of these disabled now because one of the things we'll get into, and one of the disadvantages about having these things is that sometimes you'll get a theme that will break, or a plugin rather, that will break the theme. And that's a little problem that you can usually get and fix, but it's just kind of something to keep in mind that sometimes you might get into a situation where you'll have a plugin, and that's why I have all mine deactivated, but it just goes to show that there's a lot of plugins that can do a lot of good. And one more example I'll show that's kind of cool is my robertrosenfeld.com website. This is something, the domain I bought because I wanted the name, but I have nothing to do with this website. It's just kind of boring. So I went ahead and I installed this plugin here, and this is the website here. And again, you really wouldn't know this is WordPress. Well, I have a couple of pages here and some other stuff, but this is running a plugin called Rebel Mouse that basically takes my social feed and puts it in a nice, pleasing to the eye looking manner that I can actually scroll through and see kind of my activity on Twitter and YouTube videos and stuff. But this is a plugin that basically has transformed the website and made it totally different. And you would never know that this is WordPress unless you are really a developer. If you looked at this, you wouldn't know. As well as robustech.com, I have a custom theme on this website now because I'm doing podcasts. I'm not really doing a blog. I need to, put up podcast episodes. I need to do different things, and you really wouldn't know. I guess if you were really looking for it, but the average person who's going to go to the website, you wouldn't really be able to tell that this is WordPress. But all the functions of WordPress, like being able to add blog posts easily, being able to add media, that's where it really ties in, where you could have this way out there theme that's not even related to blogging. But the blogging platform really makes adding content super simple. And I think that is one of the keys of WordPress is no matter what kind of website you have, whether you're doing it for business, for a school, whatever you have, because coming back to that, the interface and the back end and adding content is very, very key to making it simple to use and making the site really come together and work very well.
Yeah, it really does. And I will point out, just because I'm familiar with WordPress, it looked like your Robert Rosenfeld site was still using the default 2012 theme.
I believe it is. Let me pull it up here. It was some weird gray theme, I think. I don't know what the theme I have on there is. This Rebel Mouse kind of took over. But yeah, it was this weird, I don't know. It's called
it looks a little bit like 2012.
It does. Gray notepad or something. It looks like it. But this website, I really need to do something with it. Maybe one show will experiment on what options I have here. But I just wanted to put something up, and this is a plugin that's free. You kind of see though that they kind of have their branding on here. Rebel Mouse has their links on the bottom here and some of their other sponsored content. But just the fact that it's free, I can put it on a site that would usually be blank. I mean, how many times do you go to one of those sites that has a landing page like GoDaddy, and GoDaddy's getting their money off of the ads on their website because people are, have nothing to do with it? That's something where I have the domain name, but I wanted to do something with it, and this is at least an option. And this is running WordPress, and lots of sites are running WordPress that you'd never even know. So it's really important, and I think that's a really good point. So we've talked about themes, we've talked about plugins. Ryan, anything you want to add to plugins or themes or just WordPress in general before we go on to security, just about WordPress?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. Just how the plugins and the themes work with the site, and the other thing too is plugins and themes can really make or break your site. If you're using, if you don't have the something installed that you need, or you have the wrong thing installed, or your theme doesn't look good, then people aren't going to want to go to your site. or if it's slow loading, then consider using something like WP Super Cache or W3 Total Cache, just to make your site load faster. But it's a lot of the appearance of your website can really determine if people want to stay there or not.
Absolutely. That is key. That is a nail on the head right there for anyone who doesn't know. And I think that's one thing to point out that's important is though WordPress is great, it's free, it's open source, a lot of people get sucked into the notion that, oh, I have WordPress, I'm just going to go find a free theme. And that sometimes is where people can get into traps. Sometimes it's important to kind of do your due diligence. This is Elegant Themes, a very well-known WordPress website theme creator. And these themes that they have here, you wouldn't even know a WordPress again. But the thing about this is you have to pay. These are an all-exclusive pass is $40, or you can pay $48 per theme. $40 seems like a really good deal, especially since you get, I believe you get access to all the other themes. But for $50, you get, one theme, and they have tons and tons of themes and different options. This is crucial because though you have to pay, like Ryan said, it really makes your site stand out. It looks good. And without this, if you just want, like, let's say with a free theme, you might have the person that goes on the website and goes, this kind of is junky, I really don't want to go on here, let's not. And that's another reason why people pay so much money to get their websites developed and looking good. And even with WordPress, it can look good and bad. Just because you have WordPress doesn't mean your website's automatically going to be a superstar or a rock star or even look good. There is a lot of time spent to do a lot of tweaking to make sure that that website looks good and you have a good theme that's on there.
Right, sure.
And I think one more thing to point out just before we go to security here is that the power user is also not left out from WordPress by any means. We talked about people kind of
certainly not.
Custom coding the website. If you know what you're doing, you could really use WordPress as a foundation and strip everything out and just go into a completely new direction. There are so many different things that you can do with WordPress as a platform, because a lot of the things that people, who custom code themes is that WordPress is nice because it takes care of the pages, it takes care of the backend content management system, and it kind of makes things easier for the client. But for the person who knows what they're doing, they can go in there and make all these custom parsers, they could parse RSS feeds, they can make different UI enhancements and UI tweaks, make photo slideshows. You can really go all out if you know what you're doing. If you're not, also you're not left out. So I think you kind of really get the best of both worlds with WordPress.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's really important to kind of understand. So plugins, themes, go do your work. Go look out there. There's not to say that you need to buy a theme necessarily. There's a lot of great free themes. And again, if you know what you're doing, you can really tweak them well. Plugins also are a big, crucial part. But if you're looking for a way to get started and you want to look for something, maybe you have a certain theme in mind, it's not always a bad thing just to pay the money and go with it. So it's important.
Oh, no, certainly not.
Right.
There's plenty of websites that look, really good with a custom theme. And
right.
A lot of the free themes may not be the best, and you'll often have a lot of better luck finding something that is, that you have to pay for, just because it'll be better quality.
Right. And so the next topic we'll kind of move on to here, and Ryan certainly knows more about this, is security. WordPress is an open source platform, which is both good and bad. It's good because, it's free. It lets people build on it. But it's bad because people, to some extent, have the ability to kind of see the inner workings of WordPress and kind of know its downfall. And I don't know, Ryan, you might know about this. Just a couple weeks ago, I heard that there was some kind of hack that people were deploying into getting into WordPress sites with the default admin username. And you might be able to know about this. So, Ryan, how does WordPress kind of stack up to Website Tonight, to Drupal, to other content management systems? How is WordPress security-wise?
WordPress is it's really how secure you keep your data. WordPress will encrypt all your data. Well, it encrypts the passwords of your users, but if a user gets their password guessed, if the database gets compromised and the usernames get out and people start trying, brute forces on the password hashes, then there's a security risk there. So WordPress in and of itself is a secure platform, but if you have a compromise, like if one of your, say, administrators' passwords gets breached or guessed, then they can wreak havoc on your site. And I had that happen to one of the clients that I take care of, their administrator username and password got breached and their site was completely destroyed and it had to be, taken back from a backup. But if you keep your data secure, if you don't give anyone access to your server or whatever that you don't trust, then you're going to be okay, because WordPress is very secure and it is open source software, so people will try to find bugs in it. But a lot of the time, if a bug is discovered, WordPress will be alerted about it before it goes public, and they can get an emergency patch release for it that fixes it. WordPress is very good with their updates.
Yes, and I will say that they also make updating very easy. When you log into WordPress, right at the top it says, here's a new update to WordPress 2.6 or whatever it is. They make it super simple. All you got to do is literally click on the update thing, and WordPress takes care of the rest. This is something that's huge for people who don't know what they're doing. They feel uncomfortable with websites. I think Ryan makes a great point. Updates is another key feature about WordPress that makes it really, really usable and really user-friendly, is the fact that it is like a one-click update. It does everything for you. You're good to go. And I've rarely had something go wrong. Like usually the update runs, but the theme, something breaks. But that is rare. I think maybe 1% of the time that happens. But really, you run the update, you're good to go. You don't notice anything different, but the patches and all the bad guys are now kind of locked out from your site, which is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So security's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, the update process is really easy. You log in, you click the update button. It does recommend that you back up your database in case something goes wrong, and you'd have to. WordPress does not give you an option to do that, but I believe there's documentation for it in the codex. And if you have a management panel, or if you're through a hosting company, you can usually ask them to do it for you, or a lot of them will take backups every night. WordPress does have an option inside of it to dump all of its data to a downloadable file, which can be used for moving it between sites. But the upgrade process is pretty pain-free. Like you said, you log in, you click update, it'll download the new update, it'll extract the files, it'll run the update on itself, and it's done in a minute or two. And plugins update the same way. As if you've got a plugin update, it'll put the site into maintenance mode, which makes the site inaccessible for the duration of the update. It updates the plugin, then takes out of maintenance mode, and it's done.
And you actually made a really good point there as well. Moving WordPress data inside and out of the system is actually very simple. There's a very easy import-export tool, which I've used before, that is really nice. And I think that a lot of people kind of overmiss that, and they kind of glance over it. But there's a very easy tool that you can use to convert, like let's say you had a blog that you're moving now from .wordpress.com to like your own hosted. It's very easy to get that site, the information transferred, as well as, other companies like competition like Squarespace. They also make it very easy. Let's say you're done with WordPress, you want to go to Squarespace for some reason, you can export the information right out of there and send it off to Squarespace. So they really make it nice and easy. Just the fact that you can export and import the data without having to dig through databases is something that can be really appreciated and is really nice, I think.
Yeah, WordPress will export all of its data to a standard XML file. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and it's very custom.
I think we might have just
followed when writing XML files, but WordPress, it writes all its data. It's very easy, so it breaks down the posts and the page and everything and all the content on them, and it's very easy for someone to write a piece of software that will take the data from WordPress and import it into another system.
Yeah, that is a truly very nice feature, something that can be appreciated by anyone who's ever had to transfer information back and forth. Is really important. So we're going to take a quick break here, talk about one of our advertisers, which is very nice, Zygen Hosting. They have a very nice coupon for us. And Ryan, go ahead and why don't you talk a little bit about Zygen Hosting? We'll talk after the ad just how good Zygen is and how you can kind of get started with WordPress. But Ryan, why don't you talk about Zygen Hosting a little bit?
Web at Night would like to take a minute to thank our sponsor for the show, Zygen Hosting. Zygen Hosting is an established web and VPS hosting provider that's been in business since August of 2008. With fast servers and friendly staff, the customer always comes first. Web at Night listeners receive a special 20% discount on their already low-priced web and VPS hosting packages and domain registrations using the promo code Web at Night. Please note that this code does not apply to VNC hosting, shell hosting, IRCD hosting, product upgrades, or product add-ons. We now return to the show.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ryan and Zygen Hosting. It's very nice to see that 20% off. And, the prices are already better than, GoDaddy and the big names. And 20% off also is very nice as well. Thank you very much to that. Also want to give a nice shout out to OWC, Other World Computing. Very happy to bring them on. I've been in contact with them for a few months now. And they do a lot of different things. I'll have a product on the network coming up that I have in for review, but they do iOS device accessories, cases, different things. The little iPad thing I have right here, this is a OWC product. This is the NewGuard grip base and the NewGuard grip stand. They also have tons of different cases. I have a OWC NewGuard KX. I did a review of this. This is a special protective iPhone case. It's really nice. More information on that is at macsales.com. You can see all their information. They are very well known Apple hardware they have they're very well known in iDevice accessories as well as upgrading stuff like hard drive upgrades, SSD upgrades. They're very well known for that. So thank you very much for OWC and Zygen Hosting. Without them, the show would not be as good or as possible. So thank you very much for both of them. So I guess we're kind of wrapping things up, and the last thing is now you've heard all the great things about WordPress. You've heard about the plugins, the themes. It's free. The fact that you can really get into it. Now you have your Zygen Hosting website coupon, so you can go register your domain and website and get it set up. So Ryan, why don't you explain, because you know a little bit better about this more than I do, what's the next step to get started?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, you need to decide. The very first thing you need to do is you need to decide if you want to use your own domain name and install it in your own service, or if you want to go with a WordPress.com something. WordPress.com setup is very simple. You enter a few details about yourself, and it's free, and your site's set up in a few minutes. Now, Zygen Hosting, like we mentioned, offers domain registrations and web hosting plans, but we also have a very easy-to-use auto-installer. So when you sign up for a web hosting plan, you register your domain and you use that domain for a hosting account. Once you log into the management panel, there is an easy installer that you can use. You go to the install, you click on WordPress, you enter the details about your site, you click go, and in about 5 minutes, your site is completely installed and ready. And that's the only thing you have to do. You didn't have to download it yourself. You didn't have to create databases, enter details, or whatever. But like you mentioned, the install process is very, very straightforward.
And that is amazing, too. Just the fact that you have something so powerful that can be installed so easy is really nice. And I've had Ryan has walked me through numerous WordPress installs. We've done it a lot, but it just comes down to the fact that it's super simple to get set up, get running. And I mean, like Ryan said, literally in 5 minutes or less, you are done with your WordPress setup. You're ready to go and start to, explore themes and everything. And I don't know. I guess, Ryan, are there really any other skills that you need to know about WordPress? I mean, you need to maybe know about kind of FTP, kind of knowing how to install a theme, but WordPress really does a good job making all that accessible via the web interface. There really isn't much to do with FTP and all that. Am I right on that?
Yes, you are. And WordPress has recently updated itself as well, as to where before when you were installing plugins or installing themes, you had to upload it to FTP, you had to extract it, then you had to go into WordPress and activate it. But now what they're doing is all you have to do is you go into this page on your WordPress site, you click install a theme or add a plugin, you don't even have to download the file to your computer, you give it a download link, and there you go, it's already in there. It'll take care of everything that needs to do itself, and it uses the same functions that it does during the update process. And I just want to show you, I was talking about this easy installer, so let me show you this real quick. I might lose my video for a second.
I'll bring Ryan's video back if he does lose it, but we'll see if he switches over here. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so this is the installer right here. It's called Fantastico Deluxe. It's one of the more popular ones. There's also one by Softoculus, which is a good program. But you have it right here. You click on WordPress on the side. You say new installation. You pick where you want to install, because I have a bunch of add-ons on my account, add-on domains on my account. But you pick where you install it to. You enter the directory, or if you want to install on your main domain, you leave it blank. You enter your administrator username and password. You enter the administrator nickname, email address, the site name, description. You hit install WordPress, and it's done in 5 minutes. That's all you have to do.
That really is awesome.
And there's also a bunch of stuff down the side. There's a bunch of content. If you look here, there's a whole content management system. So you've got Drupal, Joomla, PHP stuff, and there's a bunch of stuff.
That really is nice. And I know it wasn't always like that, Ryan. When did that really become mainstream? Because I know before, or at least I remember, it wasn't always that simple. Didn't you really have to go in there and set a PHP server up and get all this stuff running before you could do this? When did this one-click install become mainstream, or maybe it has always been?
I'm not sure as to how long they've been around, but you need the PHP site. You need MySQL. You need PHP. You need Apache. There is actually a package called XAMPP,
yes,
or XAMPP as people pronounce it, which will allow you to set it up on your home server, or on your home computer for that matter. You don't need a domain. You can install it and play around with it, and you just access on your local computer. Nobody on the internet can get to it. But it's a good place to start and play around. And if you go through a hosting company, of course, they're going to have all this stuff already set up for you, and you can just use that. You can use the auto install, like I said, or If you want to, you can install it manually. And you also mentioned about ease of use. WordPress also became a lot easier to manually install. WordPress, the install process used to be a lot more lengthy. You had to create the configuration file you had to modify the configuration file by hand. It was a very tedious process, but now it's I believe you go through 2 screens asking for information, you hit install, and it's done.
Yes, you made a very good point on XAMPP, and I know we had talked about this before. We had talked about why it's not wise to run your own website at home for the internet, but just for testing, XAMPP, it's free. WordPress is free. You download it. That is a great way to really get the full power of WordPress and really customize things and really make it easy if you wanted to do this before your website goes live. So for example, let's say you're working on a site for a client. You really don't want that to be public online, but you're just kind of playing around with it in a sandbox. You want to be able to change all the things. You want to be able to install plugins, and you want to be able to do all these different things that you would not want either seen on the internet, or you don't want it to mess up an existing site. What's nice about this, like we said, taking everything for full circle, once you get everything installed and you get everything in a working version and you're ready to give it and take it live to the client, all you really do is you export the WordPress information, you drag and drop the plugins into the new directory. I mean, really, going the XAMPP route is a smart route because it allows you to kind of play around with things before actually taking it live. So that was a really good recommendation, Ryan.
Yeah, certainly. So it's a really, really good thing to use. I don't use it myself, mostly because I've got other servers that I can play around with it on. But when I was first starting, that is what it used. It's very easy. It just runs in the corner of your computer. You've got easy controls, and the system itself has its own management panel. So you go to this one spot on your local computer, and you've got all the options that you ever need to set up XAMPP and get something going. It's really simple and really easy to use.
That is awesome. XAMPP, I believe it has, what is that? If I can talk here, it has Apache, MySQL, PHP, pretty much all the necessary, all the necessary things you need to even do any kind of website. So it's really nice. Oh, go ahead.
XAMPP was actually created by the same people that came up with Apache. It's created by the Apache group.
Huh, interesting.
So it's built right in. It comes with Apache, MySQL, PHP, PHPMyAdmin, which is a MySQL database administrator. It comes with a FileZilla FTP server for remotely uploading files to your site. It comes with Tomcat, which most people probably won't use, but Tomcat is a lightweight application hosting platform. It comes with Perl, and it comes, like I said, with the XAMPP control panel.
That's nice. Very, very nice. That's XAMPP if you want to take a look at it and try that out yourself. I think we're kind of coming to the end here, Ryan. Anything else you want to say? We've certainly gone through a lot of things here. We've talked a lot about WordPress. Make sure, go do your due diligence, go look it up. But I think that for someone, especially either beginning or even someone who's going advanced, WordPress certainly is no slouch. It's well known, and it could be very well a really good alternative or a really good way for you to go if you're going to do a website. Anything else you want to add to that, Ryan?
No, nothing really. Just remember key points that WordPress is not necessarily a blogging site. It's very easy to use. You can come up. You don't need your own domain or anything. You can install it for free. Of course, if you have any questions about it, then feel free to email Rob or myself.
Yes.
And my email for this stuff would be ryan@zygenhosting.com or ryan@xygenhosting.com. And that'll get you into me, and if you have any questions, and I'll be sure to answer as soon as I can.
Yeah, I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. You can also go to the contact page on robistech.com. If you have a question for Ryan, put it in the contact form. I will shoot that over to him. I want to thank Ryan for being on here. He certainly knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. I have fun going through discussions and talking about these different things. We do this show live, if you didn't know. We do it live. Right now it's a Thursday, and we haven't exactly got the time down yet where we're going to keep a consistent schedule here, but we do it live, and of course we make it available in both audio and video versions, and you can go to robistech.com/WAN. I know it's web app as the @ night, and you can go there. There is the iTunes link. There's the video and audio link. We appreciate both of them if you want to subscribe to those. We also are going to start syndicating the show on YouTube, so feel free if you want to watch it on YouTube. You don't need to subscribe. You have the ability to do that. Ryan, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it, and we really had a good discussion today.
Yeah, we did, and it's good to be on with you as always, and hopefully we will be back next week for episode 6 of Web at Night.
We will be back as well.
Episode 7, sorry.
Yes, we will. And as well, Ryan and I also do a show called Teen Tech Weekly. We're going to be bringing back as well. If you want to hear about tech news and products and all that fun stuff, that's going to be on the same website here, robustech.com/TTW. But Web at Night has become really certainly very popular, and people like learning about websites. So it's really great. Ryan, thank you very much for being on. Like you said, episode 7 next week. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back next week on another episode of Web at Night.